Hello, friends. Hopefully, it's not too noisy here in this makeshift studio at Trophy Smack headquarters. I'm Kelly Singh, here with my co-host, Mr. Hallas. And this week, we're discussing the Masters. We're going to give you information about the course, the tournament, the fanfare, the celebration. We'll share with you some of our favorite picks to help you build your lineups. So let's get right on into it. I'm dancing. That was a lot of pleasantries. I have the word pleasantries in my notes.
Yeah.
I like that word.
It is pleasant.
Pleasant. Well, now that the pleasantries are out of the way, Adam, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Masters. Let's talk about Augusta. What makes it unique? Give us the rundown. Why don't you?
Well, it is a 36-hole cut, and it is in Augusta, Georgia. And just like your social team pointed out today, the food prices haven't changed. It is like the Costco hot dog, as one of your teammates pointed out. $1.50 pimento sandwich, $6 beers. A club sandwich is only $3. A chicken salad and honey wheat is $3. It is a time-honored tradition, and I'm really excited for this tournament. And it is a very hard course. Let's run through the course itself.
Let's do.
Yeah, 7,400 yards. We got some bent grass greens, and they are going to be lightning quick, kind of like my wit. So if we're going to go into the holes, let's start with the first hole at par 4. Sets the tone for the round. It's a slight dog leg right with a deep bunker guarding the right side of the fairway. Now, the reason this starts out as kind of the trendsetter for the hole is that it's very hard to get momentum as you go across into these holes, right? So, as we go into a lot of them, I think this hole has maybe a 10% birdie rate, if that. So it is, 6.8% birdie rate.
Wow.
So most of the time, you're going to open up this hole at even par. And then it has a 27% bogey rate. So right off the bat, you could be a +1 as you head into hole number 2. All right, moving on to the fourth hole. They call the Flowering Crab Apple.
Hey.
What?
Thought you were calling me a flowering crab apple.
No, I would just say flowering crab. This is one of the toughest par 3s on the course. The green is protected by deep bunkers, and the wind can play tricks on your ball. It's a true test of precision, which is why, and we'll get into a little bit more, I'm looking at approach and greens in regulation as one of my stats. Now, you'll probably hear a lot about Amen Corner as the talking heads of Jim Nance will talk about. It starts at the 11th hole. It's called White Dogwood. This long par 4 requires a precise tee shot to avoid the pond off to the left. You got trees to the right. The approach shot to the green is no less challenging, with water looking to catch any errant shots. So it is, again, a very tough course. It was brought up today in the media day. Somebody asked Brooks, is a 59 possible? And Brooks responded with, have you played here before? And the media guy said, no. And Brooks said, I can tell by the question. So, burn. And then as we rounding out to the middle of Amen Corner, we have Golden Bell at the 12th hole. It's a short par 3, but I'll let its length for you. The green is narrow, surrounded by Rays Creek, which runs through the course, and it's got some bunkers surrounding it. Again, club section is crucial here, and the wind can change in an instant. And again, you'll see this as a pattern for this tournament. It is Georgia. It can have a lot of wind coming in from everywhere else. I haven't looked to see if there's a chance of rain, but you got to pray for it. Rounding out Amen Corner's 13th hole, the Azalea. This beautiful par 5 offers a risk-reward opportunity. A well-placed tee shot can set up an eagle attempt, but the tributary, again, of Rays Creek in the front of the green adds an element of danger. So those are the big holes of the Augusta, and the other holes I did not speak to are no less damaging. They're just as difficult. We could be looking as a +2, +3 cut once 36 holes are done.
Thank you so much. It leads right into exactly what you mentioned. Some of the things that we're looking for, skill sets needed to conquer Augusta when we're putting together our pool of players this week. So as I was looking, I wasn't superly worried about putting this week. Some weeks we know putting is an absolute must-have. And obviously we want our players to make putts, but I'm more focused on greens and regulation, driving distance, and approach, which you had mentioned. And that's how I've built my favorites this week, was mostly around those big three. You will often go a step further. You dial into some of the other smaller nuances. So what are some other things that you will be looking for this week?
Yeah, so, out of all the tools that we use, I do create a model. And sometimes, depending on the tournament, you put more into it because you're more excited about the tournament. So I'm really excited about the Masters. So I put a little bit more effort into, say I don't give you 100%. I'm giving you 110% this week. So I put in 3 putt avoidance. I did look at people who make those 5 to 10 putts and those 4-footers. I'm talking to you, Spieth. Birdie or betters. I'm looking at fairways gained. It looks like those that have had a higher percentage of greens in regulation and fairways gained has gained an advantage to reach the top 10, top 5, and won the championship. So it is definitely I would say a second shot course. So as you mentioned, approach. The course is definitely difficult to score, as we alluded to with the +2, +3 cut potential. It's wavered in the past, but it's always been in the positive. So there's no real penalty, as you alluded to miss the fairway. So driving distance, it could be key. But then we need the second half to that, right? We need the iron player. And it sucks that Brendan Todd didn't win the Valero championship because he was close, but he needed to win in order to make the Masters. I think he would have done well here. And course history plays a huge factor. It is one of those weird tournaments where what they call debutantes, those people that have finally made their calling into the Masters, have a tough hill to climb as it pertains to striking up the leaderboard. So those that have not played here definitely have a disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that happens to be the running trend, I think, among all of our picks this week. You just can't get around it. And there are some guys, I think, that are the exception to the rule, and it's more players that are on the tail end of their career that, they're just probably not going to play well this year. You can't just keep counting on it year after year after year after year at a certain point. Right. But the guys we're talking about today are fairly young, but they still have this great 5-year course history looking back. So let's just start. We usually start with a really pricey guy. I don't necessarily like going tier by tier in the show, so we start with like the most expensive, probably a favorite, and then go from there. But I like Rory this week. 10.8K on DraftKings. He just played his little heart out last weekend at the Valero Open. He came in third because the other two were just murdering this course. So there was not really any way that Rory was going to win last weekend. Come Sunday, but he really like right up in there, playing so well. I think he's got something to prove when it comes to the Masters. Seems like he's really focused. And while you and I were talking before the show, while driving may have been an issue for him in the past, this season he seems to have really dialed it in, being first in total driving, fourth in driving distance, fourth in strokes gained off the tee. He's got some excellent approach stats if I wanted to go into those. And when we talk about course fit and the skills like approach, greens and regulation, distance off the tee, he pretty much could have made the mold for that little diagram. So I'm really excited for Rory this week. That'll be where I put the majority of my money when I look at those top guys. And you like Rory too, but what do you like about him?
I like Rory. Rory needs another majors championship, and this is the first major in the season. And he just needs that other one. So there's a lot of backstory to him. There's a lot of like, is Rory on the cusp of being like downhill a little bit? Is he at that crest where is this starting to peer down a bit? Don't know. I don't think he's there yet.
Right.
But it is something to say, like, and that's why he took the seat off of the PGA board, right? Is that he's like, I can't do this and I can't golf because he's given the guy gives 100% to whatever he's asked to do. And, the poor guy was asked to be the PGA face for a while. And then they kind of screwed him in the back a little bit. And then he's just told him, I can't do anymore. I can't do this and then play.
Mm-hmm.
And even he admitted to it one time when his family was walking through like a media day, and there's a picture of Rory on the board, and his daughter pointed out, like, "Oh, that's Daddy." And he even said, "He goes, that's when Daddy used to be good." And so, there's a big mental game that's going on with Rory, and I think everybody's cheering for him this week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely one of those people.
But then you also like the favorite. You like Scottie.
I do like Scottie, and I do like Joaquin the Dream, or Joaquin Niemann, who's on the live. Now, the reason I like both Scheffler and Joaquin the Dream, and so for the last 24 rounds, Scheffler has gained 2.59 strokes. Joaquin the Dream, 2.71 strokes. Now, I get it. The live only play 36 holes, and that's it. But if you compare Joaquin to Jon Rahm overall, if you combine PGA and live together, Jon Rahm is at 1.95 strokes gained in the last 24 rounds, which is a huge gap from Scheffler and Joaquin. So I like those two players.
All right. I mean, I hadn't thought about Joaquin. Obviously, I think Scottie Scheffler is going to play well, if not win. But for some reason, I just like building my rosters around guys who I'd like to see win, who I know are going to make the cut. So that's why I landed there on Rory. And then close enough to that top 10K tier, we've got Xander Schauffele, lovingly known as Schaufels. Other than being cut in 2022, he has just killed this course. He's right up there in the top 10. So top 10, tied for 10th last year. He was cut, unfortunately, in 2022. Tied for 3rd, tied for 17th, tied for second. He loves this course, obviously. And 9.9K, if I'm going to try and play him and Rory, we're going to have to make some sacrifices in other areas. But just like we mentioned with all the stats that Rory has, Xander Schauffele has just as many impressive stats with second strokes gained tee to green, second strokes gained total, 8th off the tee, 8th around the green, 14th in total driving, 18th in longest drives. I mean, he's tops among this field when it comes to what matters. And I just got a little thing for Schauffele's, I think.
I mean, it's hard not to like the guy, right? I mean, 70% greens in regulation, which we had talked about as being a key indicator. Low putts per round. His average round for the past 12 months has been less than 1. So he's been hitting on average, 2 below par each round. He does well at bent grass. He loves difficult courses. He loves this course. And he played awesome in the Players in Valspar. Now, he always typically takes a break from the week before and then does well at the Masters. And that's his key here, is that he played in the Players, came in second, played at Valspar, came in 5th, took some time off. He's now at the Masters. I think he'll do well here. Same thing here. Last year, he 19th at the Players, took some time off and played the Masters. If we look at the week before, he missed cut the Players, and that's where he missed the cut in 2022. But he loves this course. And so, again, the course history, I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of course history, we can just keep that theme going and we can keep moving on our list, because as I move on down the list, one of my favorites this week happens to be Shane Lowry. I cannot get him to stop floating to the top. Any opportunity I get, he's there. Tied for 16th last year, 3rd in 2022, 21 and the year before that, 25th the year before that, and he was cut in 2019. But the last 4 years, he has been in it to win it. Strokes gained are on the rise. I really like Shane Lowry. Driving accuracy, he's second. 26th in greens and regulations, which is nothing to sneeze at. 17th in total driving, 3rd in approach, 7th in strokes gained total. So I really, really, really like Shane Lowry this week. And man, if he won it, I think that would be exciting. 8K on DraftKings. Along that same line is Matt Fitzpatrick. The two of them, I've been like back and forth for many of the same exact reasons. And Matt Fitzpatrick is just 7-9. And again, has excellent course history. 10th last year, 14th the year before, 34th, 46th, 21st. So he's never missed a cut here in the last 5 years. He's really fighting to win this season. He played well last weekend. And I really, really like the combination of Shane Lowry and Matt Fitzpatrick on my card. I feel like that's exciting. Do you like either of those guys?
I like Fitzpatrick. I like Lowry, even though I didn't put Lowry in my pool, only because I don't know. I just don't like his putting stats, but don't listen to me sometimes. But I do like Fitzpatrick. His course history here is pretty awesome. His driving accuracy is average, but his greens and regulation is at 67%. He has pretty good putts and round. His driving distance is 303. Loves bent. He does okay at bent courses, but he loves difficult courses, and that's where this Augusta comes into play. And putting wise, he's been gaining on an average 5 strokes, and not that we are weighting a lot of that as a total. You can't can't deny that. So off the tee to green, he's been one of those well-rounded players, and I think he'll sniff at least top 5 this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. One that I was kind of unsure about adding to my list, but I just couldn't shake, was Tony Finau, because his season has been much like Theegala, who I know we're going to talk about later. It's just been not what I thought it would be, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, this is the Masters. Do I really try and rely on Tony Finau? But he's ranking 6th in greens and regulations. He's got one of the longer drives, ranking 9th in driving distance. His approach, he's ranking 7th in approach, 6th in tee to green. So there's a lot to like about Tony Finau. And again, when we bring up course history, this is a guy who hasn't missed a cut in the last 5 years at the Masters. And it feels like he could do it. 8.6K feels okay. I wish it was a little bit lower, but it feels okay.
Yeah. And look, when we talk about Tony Finau, because I have him in my pool too, all the other stuff outgains his putting, right? He's not a very good putter, and I would hope that at some point in time he gets it together to be more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But he came in second at the Houston Open. He did miss the cut at the Valstar, but the reason he missed the cut is because he just couldn't get his off the tee and approach and all that stuff together. But he does have great course history here. Out of the last 10 appearances in the tournaments, tee to green, he's gaining 3 strokes. His approach is gaining 2 strokes, and that's where we kind of want that well-balanced player that's able to approach the green and get on there, and I would say kind of compensate for knowing that he's not the best putter. Out of the last 20, 10, 5, he's lost a stroke or so, but he's getting a little bit better. His last 5, he's gained under. We'll call it even on shots gained putting. It's like minus 0.9. So I like Tony Finau.
Yeah, that's good. I like him too. The one that I think might be like my wild card could be Tommy Fleetwood, because when you look at where he ranks among this field, it's not very good. Like, it's not fantastic. It's nothing to write home about. However, he performs very well at Augusta. Mm-hmm. Again, a guy who's not missed a cut. He's volatile, but it's one that I like at the salary price point of 7.5K. I think that will fit in really nicely if you're trying to find a value among these players who have this just exemplary course history to come out at 7.5. That feels really good to me. And then the one, do you have a comment on Fleetwood?
I was just going to say he's one of those guys too that does shitty prior to the Masters and then just kind of shows up.
Yeah, that's what I feel like that's what we should deduce from looking at his seasonal rankings to his overall course history.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where like he kind of shows up. Now, granted, like when he was 33rd at the Masters, he did okay prior to Wiggins, but like the times he did well, like supremely well at the Masters, he did shitty the previous weeks leading up to it. So you play when you want to play, I guess.
Play who you want to play. I really, really, really like one that you also like, and that is Hideki Matsuyama. I like to call him Hidexter. It's my little nickname.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like him. He's looking really good. Again, tee to green, around the green. But some of his other stuff, his approaches are, they're okay. They're meh. Some of them are meh, but he's really coming out in the top half in pretty much every category, and that's important, at least to just make the cut. And then when we look at his course history, he is really excellent course history. So despite being meh, it could be another Fleetwood case, right? Where it's like this season may not have been shaking out the way he had planned, but it's the Masters and you got to put all that behind you. This could be the year he gets his second win, tying for 16th last year, 14th the year before, winning in 2021, and then tying for 13th in the original COVID makeup Masters, and tying for 32 in 2019. So talk about course history and a guy whose strokes gained are all on the rise. It's hard to not look at Matsuyama at 9K on DraftKings, and you like him as well.
Yeah, it's hard to deny his recent trend. He won the Genesis Open, came in 12th at Arnold Palmer, came in 6th at the Players, and he most recently came in 7th at the Valero. His tee to green is in the double digits. Like shots gained is averaging 12 strokes. His off the tees off the charts. His approach is on average 5 shots gained. Around the green, he's been exemplary. It's just the putting again. If this is the slightly more expensive Tony Finau. And so I think, again, with course history here, Hideki loves several courses. I mean, his background on putting, it doesn't matter the grass, he's going to miss it. But I think his approach, if he can get it close enough, he'll do well. Yeah.
And you brought up something that just rang a little bell in my head, the slightly more expensive Tony Finau. When we look at these players and how expensive some of them are, and then you look at some of their projections, I really love Matt Fitzpatrick far and away more than almost everyone in the 9,000 and 10,000 range. So take that for what it's worth, but I think Matt Fitzpatrick might be the steal value of the entire tournament when we're talking about what you have to spend and what you're going to get back. You have a list of guys that you want to kind of run through?
Yeah, sure. So my list of guys, I'm starting with Hovland at the top. I like Viktor Hovland. He's done okay here at the Masters. And I think for the most part, he's got the chops to make it here, right? He's got greens in regulation at 69%, driving accuracy 1%, 370 yards, driving distance, putts per round 28. I mean, the whole package is there, right? Just hasn't had the season that he's hoped for. He does great on bent grass. He loves difficult courses. And just the recent trend is not great for him, right? The 62nd, the Players. So he made the cut barely and just kind of faltered. Arnold Palmer, he came in 36th. Again, tee to green has been his Achilles heel. And the Genesis, he came in 19th, but then if we look back to Pebble Beach and Century, just hasn't been the same. I mean, he really hasn't played well since July last year. Now, that being said, he did well at the Masters last year. And he's got good course history. I'm thinking he kind of turns around here. That kind of picks up the pace a bit. So I like Viktor Hovland here. The other person I'm looking at is Jordan Spieth. And so if we look at Spieth, I mean, overall in my models, he comes out at the top. Driving distance is there, greens in regulation, putts per round. For the life of me, he can't make 4-foot putts. I don't know what it is. He goes well on approach. He sucks around the green, but he can make the long putts. But for fuck's sake, the 4-footers he can't make. But I think if he gets an approach game together, and I think he starts to have a little fun out there because it's a Masters, and you levy it up a little bit. And I hope he gets paired up with Justin Thomas, his old friend out there. I hope it's Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, and Jordan Spieth. I think they need to be grouped together. I think they need to bring back old memories. Justin Thomas getting rid of Bones off the bag and having a new caddy on board. Justin Thomas has good history here. I just think that caddy switch is a little odd timing coming into the Masters. I don't know who's going to get. But I do like Jordan Spieth here. And he does, again, one of those players that kind of rises to the occasion when it comes to playing at the Masters. So he's only missed a cut here on 2022. But overall, I think he's good. I think he'll do it again.
Nice.
And we talked about Hideki. My one guy that I think is kind of I don't want to say dark horse, because I'm looking at projections and Russell Henley's up there. But Russell Henley, 68% driving accuracy, 69% greens and regulation, 290 yards driving distance. So not super long, but putts per round is pretty low. He did well at the Valero. I think overall he's the package, and he's, again, has good course history here. I think he's one of those players where, like, you don't realize that he's almost made the cut every year that he's been invited to the Masters. So I think been twice. Still, I think he's got the chops to do it.
I also like Russell Henley, and you just mentioned some of the projections. This is another player who's projected to score, far and away higher than anybody in his tier, let alone some of those in a higher tier. So definitely one to keep an eye on for sure at 7.2K.
Yeah. Also, Sahith Theegala, who has a fairly good course history, and Chris Kirk. I picked both those guys and I run these guys out so we can, get this together. But like Theegala and Kirk, I think for the most part, Theegala has good course history. He loves, again, the more difficult courses. I think where he might get in trouble is that his around the green, I think his scrambling is probably not the best. And when you have a lot of bunkers around the greens, you have some collection areas, you have water. I think being able to mental game to like scramble and get yourself together and get it on the green and like, all right, I'm here. I'm probably at best going to get par. Try not to overdo it. I think for the most part, I think that's his only downfall. But last year he came in ninth, right? So again, with everything tied together, I think he'll do well here.
I hope so. He's on my FSGA league. I'd like to see him do well. I mean, ninth, like you said, ninth last year, and he didn't play before. So you also have Chris Kirk.
Real quick, Chris Kirk, same reason. Greens and regulation, right? 68%, driving accuracy, 61%. He's almost 300 yards. Yeah, if the wind's with him, he'll get 300. His putting has been atrocious. He's been losing on average between 2 to 3 strokes. His approach has been okay. But if you're going to fit in a lot of those more expensive people, I think Chris Kirk will help round it out because, again, course history. I mean, he's made the cut last year at 23rd. And then I think last year was his only year being asked to come to the Masters. But, he's not a debutante anymore. And I think with the way his play is, I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I think so too. Then I think the last little bit I wanted to kind of touch on is there's a slew of players. I won't say there's not really a slew. Maybe there's like 15, 20 players who have not played in the Masters in the last 5 years or ever. And out of those, there are some really exciting names that I want us to keep an eye on and maybe do some of your own research out there as we've shared with you what to look for. But I'm excited to take a closer look at Stefan Jaeger. Adam Schenk is always fun to watch. Jake Knapp's made a bit of a splash, but it could have been a kind of one and done. Everybody loves them. Some Eric Cole. Akshay Bhatia had a huge weekend last weekend, but almost didn't pull it out.
There's a fun stat with that. So, like, anybody who's won the tournament before the Masters has never done well at the Masters.
Well, there you go. But wasn't he fun to watch? It was fun to watch, but it wasn't fun to watch because he lost a 6-stroke lead fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Or it might have been even more. But we also have Oberg, or if you're in Europe, Aubert. He's down here and hasn't played. And then there's Wyndham Clark, who weirdly enough, he's never played. And he is one of your priciest players this week. So roll the dice on Wyndham Clark, but I will not be. I'm not that brave.
Yeah. And don't forget Tiger Woods is back, right?
Tiger Woods is back.
He's abstained from everything, I'll just leave it at that. And so he's going to come back, and he said he's only going to do tournaments that he can be competitive at. So we'll see how he does and if he can make the consecutive cuts at the Masters. I think he'll make the cut. Yeah. Like I said, it's going to be +3, +2. He'll make the cut. Will he be in contention for anything? No. But he'll be slightly competitive.
I think that's the goal. The goal is to see Tiger make it to Sunday. And the goal, I hate saying this, the goal can't be for him to win. The goal is for him to make the cut and hopefully go out on like a nice note eventually and not like a sad, limpy one. But who knows? Just to recap, some of the players we like this week were Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki Matsuyama, Hovland, Spieth, Henley, Theegala, and Kirk. So there you have it. And again, don't try and shove all of these guys into one lineup. Or maybe do. I don't know. But I wouldn't recommend it. If you're looking for information on which tournaments to play, we've talked about that before. If you're new to the game, I really recommend you look at a single entry tournament where everybody puts in their favorite one lineup. And that way you're not feeling the pressure to make 150 lineups if you are unsure how to do that. And if you're looking for a quick hit of dopamine, Adam, what?
I love making 150 lineups.
I know you do. I know you do. Quick hit of dopamine, double up tournament. I feel like half the people win. I feel that's like how the wins are spread out. You have a really good chance of doubling your money in a double up tournament. It's one of my favorite ways to just get that quick adrenaline rush. I won. Like that. That's it. I think Adam kind of froze. Oh, there you are. Yay. You can find Adam at Mr. Hallas and me at Kelly and Phoenix on the app formerly known as Twitter. Anything else that people need to know before we leave?
No, have fun.
Have fun. That's it. This is the best time of year.
Yeah.
Happy Masters.
Happy Masters.
Bye, everybody.